Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I feel like I should introduce myself for a change because I feel like I just get started talking and then I never I never let people know who I am. So, in case you don't know, I'm Karen Curry Parker. I am the author of the book Understanding Human Design and lots of other human design books, and more to come this year. So I will start this presentation like I'm planning on starting every presentation about each one of the types, and that is sometimes when I teach this information, people get triggered, and they get triggered because sometimes it stimulates, hold on a second, I have to get out of here for a sec. Sometimes it stimulates sadness and grief that maybe you didn't get the experience growing up that you were hoping for. And I just want you to be aware of that sometimes thinking about this can trigger some of that grief. When we talk about parenting and healing the inner child and the ways in which we see our children as parents or the ways in which we behave when we're children, when we're looking at how we perceive children, I like to look at children through a window. And if you can imagine, this window has four panes. These are the four things we take into context when we're looking at why a child is doing what they're doing, who a child is, and how you can best support a child. The first lens that you're going to look at your child, if you're a parent, that you're going to see your child through, or the first pane, is the human design pane. When you're looking at your child, or if you are a child, or if you've got old pains that maybe you are carrying, different kind of pain, not a window pane, pain, your human design had a big impact on who you were, you are, how you behaved, what you needed energetically. And when we are parents, understanding our child's type gives us really deep and important insights into who they are and why perhaps they behave and do the things that they do. The second thing that we want to pay attention to when we are parenting children, or if we are a child and maybe you didn't get these needs met, every child goes through a series of developmental cycles. And when you go through those developmental cycles, you have a task. It's a growth task, which is kind of interesting because we continue to have growth tasks even when we grow up, right? But every child goes through predictable cycles of development. And as you go through these cycles, if you don't get the opportunity because your parents didn't understand, or maybe they themselves never got an opportunity to really deal with this in a healthy way, or maybe there were circumstances going on in your parents' lives. I don't really want to get into parent blaming. I'm just saying many of our parents were parenting because they, in a way that reflected their own wounding, right? So children go through these developmental cycles. If they don't get to master the challenge of that particular cycle, what happens a lot of times is they get stuck in the theme of that cycle, and then will carry those behaviors with them, obviously in more adult expressions usually, but they'll carry those behaviors with them into adulthood. And that sometimes creates a source of our struggles in our relationships as adults. When we look at children and we look at children through the lens of being a parent, or we look at our own childhood through the lens of being parented, we know that our parents, or we as parents, bring our own conditioning into the parenting relationship. You have your own stuff you bring into your parenting relationship, or your parents brought into their relationship. And that impacts deeply how we see our child. If you came into a family that has really authoritarian parenting styles, and you are, let's say, we talked about in our last session, manifestors, and you're designed to be really powerful and follow your own initiative, and your parents had a parenting style that was very repressive and restrictive and rigid, that conditioning around their parenting style and you're pushing back against that may have created a conditioning that caused you to be a very relaxed, very laid back, sort of hands-off parent. And that might not work very well for some of your other kinds of kids. Maybe that might be a quasi-okay, not necessarily great way to raise a manifestor child, but maybe not a generator or a manifesting generator or a projector or a reflector. Last but not least, our energy type, our human design type, gives us unique energy needs. There are things we each need because of the configuration of our chart. And those energy needs play out in the dynamics of our behaviors. And if we don't learn while over the course of growing up how to appropriately get our unique energy needs met in a healthy way, then we will resort sometimes to misbehavior or inappropriate, unhealthy behaviors as a way of trying to manipulate the energy to get what you need so that you can feel loved, seen, recognized, powerful, etc. Interesting to note, just by the way, they talk about that in the Celestine prophecy. I about fell out of my chair when I hit that chapter. When we look at why children misbehave, we tend to believe, or we are trained to believe, that children misbehave because they're spoiled, because they're bad, because your kid is just like his mother or just like his father, that they are jealous, needy, whiny, clingy, etc., or that they have attention deficit disorder or some other issue that's causing them to act out. If you adopt this belief system, then your role as a parent becomes to control the child, right? If you can control the child, then you can manage their behavior. And if the child misbehaves, it means you're a bad parent. And so we go out into the world, and if our child misbehaves, we either completely shrink up and die because we think we're being bad parents and we're afraid other people are judging us, or we sometimes, if we're feeling like really good about ourselves or we need to make ourselves feel better about ourselves, maybe we judge other people for being bad parents. The real reason why children misbehave is because they have unmet energy needs. And they're not grown-ups, so they can't share with you in a healthy way. In fact, many of us as grown-ups can't do this either, what they need to get their energy needs met. So a 2-year-old can't say to you, hey, I'm feeling a little disenfranchised in this household, and I'd really like to have some appropriate power. Like maybe you could give me a plant to water or something, right? Or maybe you could give me a stool so I can turn the light switch on and off in the bedroom because, wow, that makes me feel powerful. 2-year-olds can't say that, right? When we parent with the awareness or the idea that misbehavior is a form of communication, and it's the way in which this child is trying to tell us they need something, and we then as parents look at those unmet energy needs and facilitate for our children ways that they can learn to get those needs met appropriately, then we create healthy dynamics and strong, resilient adults. Children need a couple of core things. And by the way, adults need this too. Okay, whether you have inner child issues or not, we all need this. They need to feel lovable. They need to feel powerful and capable. They need to experiment and explore, especially if they're third line profiles or if they have a 6-line profile. They need attention, especially if they are generators, projectors, and reflectors. And as you'll see in our conversation today, generators need attention because it activates their energy. It gives them something to respond to so that they can tap into the full life force of who they are. Every child's going to get these needs met in a different way depending on their human design. And as I said, in this particular class, we're going to talk about the generators. So let's talk first about what makes a generator. And when you look at a generator chart, pull out your charts if you got them handy. The first thing that you're going to see if you are a generator by design is that you have a defined sacral. That's going to be the red square on your chart. You will also not have a defined motor to the throat. So let's talk about what that looks like. So here is the sacral. Only generator types, and there are 2 generator types. There's the generator type, the pure generator, and the manifesting generator. We're going to talk about manifesting generators next week, but if you are a manifesting generator, listen up because you're going to learn a lot today that's going to apply to you as well. This sacral center is the most powerful motor in the body. And part of what makes it the most powerful is that it's sustainable, meaning this is the only energy center in the chart that when it's turned on and working well, when it's functioning at its highest level, is like an ever-ready bunny battery. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. So sustainability is a key theme here. Generators have the ability to have access to sustainable energy. Now, that doesn't mean they don't need rest, okay? but it does mean they have a tremendous amount of energy that they can access for the most part on a daily basis in a regular, consistent, sustained way. That's important because this energy center is the center for workforce and life force energy. This is the place where we have the energy to work to create resources, to work to build things, to work to take care of children, to take care of aging parents, to take care of the people we love. All of this energy is contained in the sacral. And if you've ever raised children, you know that especially when they're little and they come in because they have a nightmare, that when they come in because and they wake you up because they're hungry or they're scared or something's going on, you can't say, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do that," right? You have to wake up and take care of that kid. And it requires of you that you are sustainable, that you have the ability to show up 24/7, especially if they're home because of social isolation and you're homeschooling them. And then you're taking care of them on top of that. They're here, you're here, you have to be here for it all the time, right? So, this energy center gives us that energy that we use for parenting and caring as well as for working. This is also the energy that is for sex and sexuality, and it's fixed. Anything that's colored in has a very fixed way of operating. And so it doesn't have a lot of variability in it. Last time when we talked about the manifestors, we talked about how manifestor energy, because the sacral center is open, has variability in its sexuality. It can use sexual energy in a lot of different ways. The generator can't. It's defined and it's fixed and it's fairly consistent. That doesn't mean you can't learn new things. It doesn't mean you don't like to experiment and explore, but for the most part, the quality of your sexual energy is fixed and consistent. The coolest part about this center is that it's not a magnet, it's not like a magnet, but it is a powerful source of information for the generator types that can stick them or align them into their right place in the world. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, why am I not a manifester? I wish I was a manifester." And I say to them, be happy you're a generator because it's pretty easy to be a generator, even though generators think it's not. Basically, this motor is like a heat-seeking missile, only it doesn't necessarily look for heat, it looks for right work. So it's completely, constantly, always programmed and searching on a quest to find the information to put you in the right place, your right path as a generator. This motor doesn't have words associated with it. Notice how far down away it is from the throat center and how far away it is from the mind. Okay? This is a very primal, gut level awareness energy that operates with sound. It's like if you think about a car, you know how you use your key to turn well, you used to use a key to turn the car on. I don't think you do that so much anymore. Now you push buttons, right? But in the olden days, when we use a key to start your car, right? This motor, the key to this motor in the human design chart is sound. It uses two sounds, and if you start following these two sounds, making these sounds, and people always say, "Well, can't I do this in my head?" You can eventually if you practice doing it in your head. But I encourage you all, if you're just waking up to being a generator, make the generator sounds because those sounds are a frequency of energy and they get that motor humming. And once it starts to hum, it starts sending you impulses and signals and sounds and that gut level, this feels right, or this doesn't feel right. It gives you these deep core, visceral, very kind of primal insights into what you should be doing, where you should be going, and whether something is a good choice for you to make or not. The two sounds that the sacral makes are uh-huh and uh-uh. And there's a beauty in these sounds. The first thing that's important about these sounds is, as I said, it's a frequency of energy. And when you start to go and you're a generator type, if you keep answering people's questions or answering the things that show up in your life with those sounds, which are, for many of us, they're sounds we were told to not make as children because they're rude, right? I was raised in the South. You don't say uh-huh. That's rude, right? So we learn sometimes to disconnect from these sounds. When you can reconnect with these sounds, you will feel it in your body. And any of you who are generator types who feel lost or lacking in clarity or like you don't know what to do, connecting with those sounds is going to get that whole situation turned around for you pretty darn quick. The second thing that's really brilliant and beautiful and elegant about this center is because it uses no words, it bypasses the mind. And when we understand human design, we know that most of us have monkey mind going on because we're designed to look at ideas from multiple perspectives. And that's really what's going on with monkey mind. We're just looking at ideas from multiple perspectives. We're curious and exploratory and inquisitive and full of curiosity. So we have questions, right? Those questions oftentimes create false answers that are only possibilities to be explored, not truth. And we often will make the mistake of following the things in our head and trying to make them happen and not using the wisdom of the responsive nature of the sacral, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And then we get all tangled up in trying to figure out where do we need to be and what do we need to do and what's the next right step for us to take. This sacral bypasses all of that figuring out how, all of that panic and pressure about I don't know what to do, or all of that frustration that comes from thinking that you thought you knew what you were doing and having a fixed idea and visualizing it and visualizing it and visualizing it and trying to force it into form when the timing wasn't right or if it wasn't the right idea, and then feeling really discouraged because you put all your energy into trying to build something that came out of your mind, not from your sacral. So I want to give you an example from my own life of something of the way this happened for me in the very, very beginning when I first learned my human design. I am a manifesting generator by type, so I'm not a pure generator, but I do have a sacral response. When I first learned human design, I got really excited. I know you probably can't imagine that, right? But I got really excited. And so, like, within the first few weeks of learning it, I was like, I'm going to teach a workshop. So I staged the workshop. I knew how to do this, right? I rented a room. I made flyers. In those days, we didn't have the internet. We had flyers, right? I made a flyer. I wrote a press release. I distributed it to the local newspaper. I put flyers up all over town. I did everything right to make this workshop happen. One person came and lost a ton of money. Okay. And I didn't have a lot of money to waste in those days at all. I was gutted. So I was like, okay, well, I sure as heck didn't respond to that. I kind of made that whole thing up out of my head, right? So I waited about a month and a half and I was still sharing human design charts with people. And one day somebody said to me, Karen, you should teach a workshop about this. Now, when she said that to me, it's like bong, a gong went off, right? This resonant force in my sacral was like, uh-huh. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do an experiment. I went and I booked the exact same room. I redid the flyer, changed the date, used the same flyer. I redid the press release, changed the date, used the same press release. I literally did everything exactly the same as I had done the first time around. Second time around, I had 36 people in the room. And the only difference, other than the date, was that I responded. I used my sacral instead of my mind to create the experience of the workshop, right? So the sacral knows the truth. And the key to really turning it on is to use yes or no questions. Yes or no questions. Now, here's the thing. When you look at parenting and type, there literally isn't a single type in the entire human design system that is designed to be told what to do. None of this is designed to be told what to do. We are designed as generators to be asked. We are designed to be asked. Would you prefer to clean your room this morning? Mm-mm. This afternoon? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want some peas on your plate? Mm-hmm. Do you want 3 peas on your plate? Mm-mm. Do you want more peas? Mm-hmm. Would you like 8 peas? Mm-mm. Do you want 5 peas? Mm-hmm. These are little things you can do if you have generator children to lead them down the path of cooperation by learning to ask them yes or no questions. If you tell a generator what to do and their sacral replies with mm-mm, which You've probably seen that expression on a kid's face if you've raised children before. And you force them to override that sacral response. If you overpower that response and you don't work with it and explore how you can create a response that works for your child and for you, this isn't about not setting good boundaries. This is about co-creating a direction with your child. If you override that child's sacral authority enough and you don't ask them, you disconnect your child from their own inner compass, and they can't know their truth because they get disconnected from the source of truth for themselves. So, as parents, one of our jobs, if we're raising generator children, is to keep them connected to that inner truth, that sacral motor. When I was raising my other kids, my older kids, I have older kids and then I have an 11-year-old. This was in the time when Nancy Reagan came out with this whole just say no thing in high school, right? Just say no to drugs. And we were telling kids, just say no, just say no. If you don't have the opportunity to say no growing up, and generators need to have that opportunity to find appropriate times and places and ways to say no. It's a skill set. If you never learned how to say no appropriately and you get disconnected from your inner compass and then you become a teenager, and now you're out in the world and your natural inclination developmentally is to experiment and explore, as well as to learn to break away from your parents. And you've got this backlog of needing to say no appropriately because you never got to say no at home. You're going to have a teen or a young adult that's going to be disconnected from what's truth for me. And consequently, instead of being conscious and deliberate and moving themselves along their path in an aligned way, they're going to be rebellious and potentially making really life-threatening decisions. And it's going to make it very difficult for them over time to be able to even do something as simple as set a good boundary, because they won't know the power of their no or their yes, because they'll be disconnected from this inner compass that is the compass of the generator. Now, as I said, they'll have a red square. A generator type will have a red square colored in. And they will also potentially have a connection between the ajna and the throat, or you can have an undefined throat. So you may have any of these connections here, any of these connections here, or any of these connections here, plus the red square colored in, or you can have an undefined throat, no connection at all to the throat, and still be a generator. Each energy type, if you're going to put on a play, each energy type plays a specific role. The generator, if you're going to put on a show, plays the role of the workforce energy that puts on the show. They build the set, they make the set. They're the ones that are potentially acting out the drama. They're running the lights. They're printing up the brochures and handing out the brochures as people come into the audience. They're the worker bees, the people who do the work to make it happen, not the initiators. Remember, the manifestors, the initiators were the ones that got the idea started. It's the generators that come in afterwards and provide the sustainable energy, the ability to take a project from the beginning to its end. Now, as I'm saying that, please know the generators are people who need people. You personally, as a generator, might not be well designed to bring a project from start to finish. That might not be your greatest gift. You might be somebody that's really, really good at project startup. You may be really, really good at somebody who's a good consultant who comes in the middle of chaos and cleans it up. Okay, but together, because generators are people who need people, together a group of generators bring the energy to bring something from start to finish. Generators are here to work and build. And your purpose as a generator is to do the work of the world and to become masterful at that work. Now, I want to talk about generators and mastery and work for just a second, because I want to bust a myth for you guys. Somewhere, at some point, I'm not sure when or where or why, somebody came up with the expression, do what you love and the money will follow. And instead of saying, what does that mean? We all somehow bought into this story that means the only work that's relevant and truly aligned is the work that we love that brings us money. And we somehow warped this generator story of do what you love and the money will follow to if you're a generator and you respond to the right work, the money will follow. I want to take that apart just a little bit because the right work for the generator isn't necessarily going to be a job, a job. It's your passion project. It's what you long to bring forth in your life that's aligned with the story of who you are. It might be a place of service. It might be going away in the summertime to teach children in an underprivileged school. It might mean doing some other kind of project on the side that isn't your job, but your job creates the support for you to be able to do that project. Please don't get yourself so twisted up that you think you don't have that you're out of alignment because you have a passion project and a job, but your job's not your passion project. Sometimes it's not. And the right work isn't necessarily going to be the job. The right work is going to be that you have a place where you are inspired and fulfilled, that your passion, that energy of that turned on sacral, which is a kind of passion, is allowing you to fulfill itself through your work. That could be something like staying home and raising your kids. That might be your passion project for a while. That might mean having an amazing garden in your backyard that feeds your community. That might mean having an art project or an a studio and you do art on the side and your job provides the funding for you to be able to do that for fun and to fulfill that passion of your creativity. Don't get caught up if you have a job that isn't your passion project and think it's not right, okay? That you're not living true to your design. You follow that sacral, it'll take you where you need to be. And sometimes it takes you to a job that makes you the money so that you can do your passion somewhere else. And that when we lose connection to our passion as generators, that's when we deaden our connection to the sacral, especially if we think we can't do what we love to do because of the money, or we think we can't, that we have to make money doing our passion. And if we can't figure out how, we put the passion aside. What if you can have the passion and the job? And sometimes the passion and the job coincide, and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not about the job, it's about making sure you have that sacral fire somewhere coming out in your life. And that you're not avoiding your life because you haven't found it yet, or it hasn't found you yet, or you've talked yourself out of it, or you've told yourself it's impossible, or you've denied it for yourself because you think you can't make money at it. And now instead of following your passion in the evenings or on the weekends, you watch Netflix because it's too painful to try to figure out how to do this in the way that society tells you have to do it because you think, oh my God, I have to make money at it. What if you don't? What if it's about becoming masterful over yourself and the fulfillment of who you are? Because that's really the mastery of the generator type. Every type in human design has a particular decision-making strategy. For the generators, it is not to initiate as it is for our manifestor types. Generators have to wait. And when you tell a generator, and I do readings for generators and I tell them, you're here to wait, they're like, what? You are here to wait. But it's beautiful because that waiting allows you to be in alignment with what shows up. You are here to wait to respond. So let's talk through this for a minute because it's always a big question for people. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, you're here at work and you're on your computer at work and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I need a vacation. I'm just so burned out, right? Say, I need a vacation. Now, typical generator, non-aware generator, you might open up your computer and start searching on Kayak or Southwest or Frontier or whatever and start booking yourself flights, right? Oh, I think I'll go to Puerto Rico. And you start booking yourself a flight. That's not responding. That's creating out of your head, okay? That afternoon, you go to the doctor for your annual physical, and the doctor says, oh my gosh, you need a vacation. You need to take some time off. You're like on the verge of an adrenal collapse, you need to take some time off and get some rest and take care of yourself. On the way home, driving home from the doctor's office, you see this billboard, and on this billboard, there's this beautiful scene with the sunset and the palm trees and the beach, and you think, oh, I need to go to the beach. That's responding. Responding means something shows up in your outer reality, a sign, a signal, a clue, a cue that you respond to. That's the piece that you respond to. And from that place, you can start building the next part of the dream. So if you went home after seeing this billboard and then booked a vacation to the beach, you'd be responding, which is different than when you were sitting here at your office desk going, oh, I need to get away, right? Now you have something to respond to. And just to make things more clear, because the universe is pretty sneaky that way, when you get home in your mailbox, there's a postcard from your friend who's just moved to the Cayman Islands, and she sends you this postcard and she says, why don't you come down and visit me? I missed you. Let's hang out. Boom. Sacral says, right? And now you go book your ticket. The struggle for the generator sometimes, because generators are a doing type, is to wait for that signal for right timing, which is really what the sacral's about. It's the signal that tells you right time, right place, right opportunity. When we don't wait for that signal, or if we give ourselves permission to wait for that signal, usually what happens first is we freak out, right? We get afraid. Oh my God, if I don't do something, nothing's going to happen. I can lay money on the fact that if you are a generator and you stop initiating and doing and waiting and you start waiting instead, something's probably going to show up for you before the end of the day. Things show up pretty quickly for the generator types. You are designed to do the cosmic cha-cha-cha with the physical world. And you are, as a generator, pretty much always responding. You're responding to, what do I want to eat? You're responding to when you open up your closet in the morning, go, oh, what should I wear besides yoga pants, right? You're responding to everything in the world all the time. And those opportunities for you to grow in the mastery of who you are and express yourself show up pretty regularly, especially when you start tuning into them. Every type has an emotional theme. The emotional theme for the generator is frustration, and it can sometimes be a challenge. Now, remember that the emotional themes, the way that I teach it is an emotional theme goes both ways. You either express it or other people around you express it towards you. So if you're a generator, you're either frustrated or people are frustrated with you, okay? Everything about the generator process of frustration, or the generator emotional theme of frustration, is related to momentum or lack thereof. The problem or the challenge is this: generators have a stair-step learning curve, or a stair-step life process. It is built into the way that a generator learns that they have surges in mastery. When they start something new, or you get a new job, or you're learning a new skill, in the beginning, whoop, you have a nice surge in mastery. You get the hang of it relatively quickly. But at a certain point, and this is a natural, inevitable part of the generator process, you're going to hit a plateau. You're going to sit in that new skill, and no matter how much you practice and work at it, you're not going to make improvement. Or if you're in a job that you really loved and you've gotten really, really good at it, at a certain point, you're going to sit on that plateau and be like, oh, I hate my job. I'm so bored. I know everything. When am I going to get promoted? When is something else going to happen? When am I going to get a better project? That plateau is an opportunity for the generator to take care of themselves, to nurture themselves, to explore and think about other opportunities or other places and ways to grow. But most importantly, that plateau is a cycle when the generator is building up energy, building up momentum for the next breakthrough, so that they can have another surge in mastery. And that breakthrough will either be literally your skill set will improve. And how many of you as generator types, you know this, right? You're training really hard for an event. Let's say if you're an athlete, and then all of a sudden you get the flu and you go to bed for a week, and then you get up and you're like, man, I haven't trained in forever. And I was so like not having the breakthrough. Now I'm really going to be behind in my mastery. And you get on the bike or you start running, and all of a sudden that plateau cycle has ended and now you're suddenly way better than you were before you got sick, even though you were laying on your butt for a whole week, right? Those plateaus are dangerous for the generator process because the symptom of momentum building is frustration. It's not really frustration, it's just the energy is starting to vibrate and you have a sense that there's more available, that there's more coming. And you think because of your conditioning that you have to figure out what that next right thing is, but you don't. It shows up for you. And if you can be at peace with the awareness that, oh, this is momentum building, instead of doing what many, many generators do, which is quit. Generators tend to quit before the breakthrough. And they go from surgeon mastery plateau, quit, surgeon mastery plateau, quit, surgeon mastery plateau, quit. And they never get to go up to the next level because they keep quitting, leaving behind trails of beginnings and quittings, beginnings and quittings, beginnings and quittings. It doesn't mean that as a generator you can't quit, but it means you have to quit correctly. You have to respond to quitting, because if you don't respond to quitting, you just bail, then you have to start over from the beginning. You can respond to quitting, and then that might be the right opportunity for you to quit. You learned what you needed to learn. Now it's time to go on to the next thing. When we look at this from a parenting perspective, as parents, we have a role of when we're parenting generators to do two things. Number one is to recognize that frustration is an important part of the generator process, and we have to support the generators in learning how to manage frustration so that they don't start engaging from the very start in cycles of quitting that don't allow them to become masterful over themselves, most importantly, and the story of who they are and their self-expression. So it becomes a little bit of an interesting journey for a parent of a generator, because you really have to check in with your generator and ask them sacral questions. Are you feeling like you should quit piano, guitar, football, science fair, whatever? Is it important for you to stay with this and figure it out? Is there anything I can do to support you while you manage this frustration? These are really great parenting questions to ask a frustrated generator, and to start giving them the vocabulary for frustration. And instead of calling it frustration, say, seems like you're having a lot of energy right now that's telling me that you're about to figure things out. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? And to help generators work with that frustration, rather than causing them to sit there with it and bail or throw a fit, recognize that energy, that momentum that's building, sometimes needs support in dissipating. Take the generator kid for a run around the block like you would your dog, right? Or go play with them, or wrestle with them, or do something physical to help them discharge that energy as they build that frustration. When you are a frustrated generator, you need help moving that energy sometimes as a child, and certainly need support analyzing and processing that energy so it doesn't cause you to quit and miss the opportunity for mastery. How many of us as generators have disappointments in our past because we didn't stick with something long enough, and in hindsight we wish we had, right? The other part of it is, especially if you have a very intense child, or you were a very intense child, in some family structures, when children get frustrated, it's not allowed. It's a negative emotion, right? And we don't like it. We don't like it when our kids are frustrated. We want them to not be frustrated. We want them to just get it done, right? And so many generators oftentimes learn over time to really shut down that frustration piece and to internalize it instead of allowing themselves to express it in a healthy way. And if you don't learn how to work with that energy in a healthy way, it sets you up to potentially bailing on opportunities that support you in fulfilling the true story of who you are. I like to call the generator types the alchemist. This is the quantum human design name for the generator. The spiritual job of the generator is to turn inspiration into form through building, through doing, through working. The generator, when we look at the quantum purpose of the generator, the quantum purpose of the alchemist, the role of the alchemist is to physically manifest creativity. And let's be really clear when we're talking about creativity here. We're not just talking about art and that little narrow way that we define creativity. We're talking about the ability to manifest, the ability to express, the ability to make into form through devotion. Because the generator process has built into it cycles of mastery, or rather cycles of surge and masteries and plateaus, surge and masteries and plateaus. And if you are not devoted, and devotion is the experience or the process of tending to the expression of the self over and over again, cultivating the self, recognizing that who you are is the canvas of your life purpose, that through that process of devoting to sticking with it and exploring it and investigating it and being curious about what's the frustration about, what's the breakthrough about, where is this headed, that devotion piece allows you ultimately to physically manifest through the story of your life the spark of divine creativity. As I said, the challenge for the generator type is to quit before mastery. Some important things to contemplate for you as you are healing perhaps your own disconnection from your sacral and your generator nature. First question is, are you expressing your mastery? Or have you let frustration cause you to settle for less? Are you compromised in expressing who you are? And number two, which is very similar, is frustration keeping you from your masterful destiny? Is frustration keeping you from waiting it out until you have the next breakthrough? Parenting challenges when you parent a generator. Dun, dun, dun. Your goal when you raise a generator child is to raise children with a strong sense of capability and the awareness of the potential for frustration, and to teach them how to use frustration with awareness, to know that, oh, I'm frustrated, I'm building momentum. What do I need to do to prepare for the next breakthrough? Okay? And to make sure they have a strong sense of capability. Generators habitually settle for less than what they're capable of because of the frustration, because of the intolerance or the misunderstanding of the experience of frustration, because we think frustration equals wrong. Because somewhere along the way, we were told that if it's right, it's going to be easy, and if it's wrong, it's going to be hard and frustrating. Not true for the generator. If you are going to raise healthy generator children, they need to burn energy in a healthy way. For generators to sleep well and stay healthy, they have to empty the tank every day. That sacral motor has to go down to the 0 mark on the gas tank every day, which means generator children generally need a lot of physical activity. Now, every kid is different, and there are other elements sometimes in the chart that can cause some people by design to be a little bit more sedentary, but generators as a rule need to burn out their sacral every day. And if you are an adult generator and you're struggling with sleeping, it probably means you need more exercise. It also might mean that because you might be disconnected from your passion project, you are avoiding going to work, you're avoiding your daily life at night, and instead of going to bed and resting so you can wake up excited and exuberant about going into the next day tomorrow, do the next thing in your day, you're dragging yourself out of bed, going to work, set in that settled, compromised energy. So at night, when you come home from work, instead of resting and regenerating, you're avoiding, you're watching Netflix, you're maybe doing something else on the internet, cruising social media, etc., right? And then you get tired, and instead of going to bed when you're tired, you wait till you get your second wind. All of a sudden you get your second wind, and now you're staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're not getting enough sleep, and you're chronically sleep deprived, and you're not moving, you're sedentary, and so you're not burning out your energy, and you're not sleeping well, and you're not going to sleep when you're tired and listening to those inner signals that make good, healthy sleep possible. When I used to coach parents of children with ADD, and I'm not in any way saying that ADD isn't a real diagnosis, but I do think it's a diagnosis that probably is used a little bit too frequently. I actually found that, with the exception, over the course of 2 years of doing this all the time as a full-time job, with the exception of one child, every child I ran charts for during that time were generators. which I personally would have expected them to be open sacral beings, manifestors, projectors, or reflectors who were amplifying life force energy. But in reality, it was generators. And what I found was that many of the children I was working with and the parents I was working with, they were all chronically sleep deprived. The families were chronically sleep deprived. Now, if you are chronically sleep deprived, your serotonin levels will be low and you will have similar symptoms to that of ADD. And it was very interesting to me that when I could get all the kids and all the parents in a family unit to go, like, say, for a walk in the evenings or go do something physical and burn off extra energy and not have a sedentary lifestyle and start to increase the quality of their sleep, when the whole family slept better, interestingly enough, a lot of the ADD symptoms went away. And all the parenting challenges went away because everybody did better when everybody was well rested. The second thing parents of generators need to know is how to teach children to interpret frustration. Generator children, as I said, need to know how to work with frustration. They also need to learn how to wait. And they need to be taught the power of waiting. To teach children to say, I know you want it right now. I can feel how excited you are about it. And the universe is so abundant and so aware of what you need that it's going to show up in exactly the right time for you. So let's think of something to do while we're waiting. Let's go find some creative ways to use our energy while we're practicing waiting for the right time. Teach them, of course, the power of the sacral response. If you have a 4-year-old generator or even younger or a little bit older, the best thing you can do is play what I like to call the game. If you get down with a young generator and start asking them a series of yes or no questions and let them answer the questions with and make it really silly and fun, like, are you a unicorn? Do you have pink hair? Do you have glitter on your head? When you walk and you shuffle your feet, does it make lightning on the carpet? When you ask them yes or no questions and they respond with their sacral sounds, you can see their energy pick up. It's like an energy bomb, and they begin to escalate their energy frequency and they laugh and they giggle and it just feels so good. And for those of you who are generator types, if you've never been responding and you start responding, you will see that it awakens this life force energy in you that is just delicious and delightful. That is a quality of life force you've probably been longing for a very long time, because most of us grow up without access to it. Generators do not have a motorized throat. Manifestors do. Manifesting generators do. All of the types, projectors, generators, and reflectors who have non-motorized throats, need recognition to be heard. So it's very important too, when you raise your generator child, that you create that recognition for them. Make sure you notice them and talk to them and draw them out at the dinner table. Ask them questions when they come home. They need to respond to feel seen and to feel heard. If you love a generator, don't take their frustration personally. Learn to ask them yes or no questions. That's the breadcrumbs down which you can lead them. It's very easy. Generators are easy to move in a certain direction. Recognize where they are fixed in their energy and don't try to change them. Generators, their sexuality is fixed. Don't change it. Work with it. Understand, if you love a generator, the importance of work. If they love their work, whatever their passion project is, they're going to want to do it because it brings them so much joy. Help them get out of their head. Help them learn to trust their sacral. And like I said, if they start to build up frustration, take them for a run, okay? They need to move physically, especially when they get frustrated. And if for whatever reason, whether it's illness or something happens in their life, if they can't be moving, if they become sedentary, it can really cause a decrease in life force energy and increase in frustration. You all be well. Take good care of yourselves. Stay well. Rest. If you are a generator, keep responding. Turn on the life force that is your right. And talk to you guys next week. We'll talk about manifesting generators. Bye.